What's going on, guys? I hope you're all having a wonderful week or weekend. Whenever you are watching this, I hope you're having a wonderful day. I just wanted to, again, start off this video by kind of letting you guys know exactly what we're going to be doing. If you saw the first wrestling video that I put out in this series, you will have already heard this. So if you've already heard it, then go ahead and skip to the beginning of the video. But we are doing the most ambitious project in the history of this channel, and this is part 2 of really the first episode of my friend Daniel, Lindsay, and I booking everything from now until WrestleMania. Now, I will say that these are being filmed week by week by week, so obviously things will change as we go along. I don't think I said that last time, but just in case you guys were curious, we are updating it as we go along. But I hope you guys enjoy part 2 of episode 1 of our booking, fantasy booking really, from now until WrestleMania. Since CM Punk did return a couple of weeks ago at Survivor Series, we decided that it'd be fun for us to just kind of have a list of the top 10 matches we would like to see with CM Punk. And by that, I mean top 10 opponents for CM Punk. Now, some of these guys Punk has wrestled before, and some of these guys Punk has never wrestled before, anywhere, for any company. So hopefully these are going to be exciting. We are going to do it in reverse chronological order and kind of go one at a time just to see where our lists are. And Dan, why don't you go ahead and start your number 10?
Sounds good. Before we get into that, I have to say, we discussed Punk pre-Survivor Series.
Okay.
We just, and I definitely, I guess you can say I went on record and say I wasn't exactly excited for the possibility of coming. I was shocked. I think everybody was shocked. Obviously, we've seen reactions from a lot of well-known Twitch and YouTube people that I've started following more and had kind of right around that time, so it's really interesting in that respect. But I think, I wasn't, and we talked about Punk at length, where you were watching the product a lot when Punk had his runs, and he had a lot of different personas, and I was not watching the product very much at that time. I knew who Punk was. Most of the 2000s, I kind of, I knew Cena. I knew the big names, but I wasn't watching the product on a regular basis. I would try to find Mania, most years, but even then, I wasn't really watching the product a lot. So, but I was never. So my view of Punk at the time was, I think, how, you view most heels. You don't really like most heels. So I didn't really ever care to, I never really watched his stuff at the time. And obviously he left with a lot of controversy about 10 years ago. And he had controversy in AEW, and he's brought back. I will say, I've done a complete 180, and I'm excited for what, that's why I wanted to do this top 10, because I'm like, whatever you think of whatever he's done, whatever you think of whatever he's acted with any organization. He's obviously worked for not just WWE and AEW, but he was an independent circuit a lot. So he's been around. Wrestling is in his blood, and it's obviously to go back to back to a subject of the authority back in the day. It's best for business in a sense. Triple H knew what he could do with Punk on the product. The fans have obviously been speculating and wanting him back on the product for 10 years. And Triple H finally paid it off at the midnight hour at Survivor Series. And at first, my reaction was like, wow, I can't believe they did it. But now seeing his promos, and he's officially a Raw superstar now, this contract that he signed Monday, I'm like, let's see where this goes. There's obviously people that, are involved in those decisions that we don't know. We're not in Punk circles. We're not in H circles. We're not in Nick Khan circles. We're not in Tony Khan circles of why he wanted to do it and what happened there. Unless you're truly close to those people, there could be, journalists, media. What do journalists and media do? Both push stuff out of proportion all the time. Sure. So there could be a lot of stuff that it's not. We might never know the unearthing of some of these stories for a long time.
Right.
Even back to what he did 10 years ago, there could be more. There's not as much to it. Yeah. My point being, I'm excited for what the possibilities hold, and that's what that's why I think he's top 10. So to get into my first one, most of mine are either matches that He's never had faced this opponent, or he's only faced them a minimum amount of times. I did definitely think of, let's run it back with Cena. Let's run it back with Orton. Him and Orton had a ton of matches. Him and Cena had a lot of matches. But I was like, no, let's do some fresh stuff. There's good wrestlers out there to pair him with. So my first one is Shinsuke Nakamura. I think that just his style again, and in most of these matches I've picked, outside of maybe one or two, fire promos. Punk is one of the best in the mic. Whether you like him, dislike him, where he's been, whatever, he knows how to control mic, and I'm being wrapped in every time he goes and does a promo. I've been wanting to hear what he says because I want to see how he's coming across, and right now he's coming across as very likable.
Sure.
And it's great. So yeah, my first one is Shinsuke. Again, I think you got good promos there. I think you can have a lot of intrigue. Shinsuke has a unique style. So I think those two together, I don't know if I have a lot of reasons of how you built each of these. I don't know if you necessarily even need to go into reasons to build why you would build to these outside of maybe one or two of them. But to me, Shinsuke would be number 10 slot.
Yeah, fair. I think definitely once they kind of let Shinsuke do these vignettes where he's speaking in his native tongue of Japanese. I don't know if you've ever heard the Gabriel Iglesias joke about Canelo Alvarez, where where Canelo speaks to a interviewer in Spanish, and he sounds like an absolute killer because that's his native language, and then they bring in an American or an English speaking interviewer, and then he doesn't know the words, and so he sounds really unconfident and really shaky and stuff because he can't really speak the language. I think a lot of it is that with Shinsuke, where he just sounds so much more threatening and menacing because he's speaking in his native tongue than he does when he's speaking English with a very heavy accent. And I just think that's a good. I think that was obviously a great switch. I'll see how that would work with Punk. But yeah, I do like that. I don't have Shinsuke on my list, but that is not to say that I would not like to see that match. I just have 10 guys that I'd like to see more.
Yep.
My first one is probably going to be a bit of a shock to you guys at home, but it's Braun Breaker. And the reason why Braun Breaker is my number 10 is because if I had it my way, that would be CM Punk's last match in the company. That would be CM Punk's I'm going to ride off into the sunset match. He puts over Braun Breaker, and that would be it. And the reason why I would do that is because think of how many last matches we've seen with Triple H, with John Cena, with not Shawn Michaels, but with a guy like Randy Orton putting over young guys, or Batista even, like all these veterans of the business that have put over all these young stars, especially John doing everything he possibly can to put Austin Theory over, Solo, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, AJ, all he tried to do that. Not a single person has done that with CM Punk. Now, obviously, that's for a lot of reasons, right? Punk hasn't retired outside of, obviously, he left wrestling, but that wasn't a real retirement. That was him basically being blackballed for a little bit there until AEW came around, and then he wasn't blackballed anymore because it was a whole other company. But I think that Braun Breaker beating CM Punk in a big high-profile match, if that's the only one you do, Braun Breaker will have a very unique claim that no one else can make, which is, I am a very, very young, up-and-coming wrestler who beat CM Punk. And that would be it. Like nobody else can claim that. Yep. Or maybe even I retired CM Punk for real this time, right? Like you can whatever story you want to put there. I think it just makes sense where this young bull, and I mean if you guys haven't watched him, he's a bull. I mean he's just an absolute animal. This guy. I could very clearly have them tell a story where he just overwhelms him. And Punk realizes it's time to go. He's not the best in the world anymore. He can't keep up. But I think that that's a great story to tell. And you might be thinking, well, Tyler, Braun Breaker, how old is he? He's 25. even if you do it in 3 years, he's 28. That's how old Dragon Lee is, and they're painting him to basically be a kid on TV, not literally, but like, like, oh, he's so young and up and coming, and this guy's going to be the future for the next decade and a half. All right, well, Braun Breaker's 3 years younger than he is, so what are you going to do, right? Like, there's, in 3 years, he's going to be in the same spot. So I'd like to see that. Obviously, again, for all the reasons that I just discussed, I think that would be a very unique claim. Now, obviously, is that going to happen? I'd give it like a 5% chance of that happening. I would think that if CM Punk was going to do a retirement match, he would probably do it with somebody that he has a little bit more history with.
Right.
I don't know who necessarily that would be off the top of my head, but it might be somebody different. It might not be a young guy, although it could be. I don't know. Yeah. We've seen it before with Baron Corbin beating Kurt Angle. They didn't really have any history. Baron Corbin was a younger guy, but that was Kurt Angle's last match. So.
Yeah, no, I like that. We were talking about Breaker earlier.
Yep.
That would be, if he needed something to solidify him for main roster status, you can't get much better than that.
You definitely can't.
Can't.
All right, Dan, number 9.
Number 9, going to the Bloodline here, going to Jey Uso.
Jey Uso.
They're on, and this is one more of they're on the same brand right now. Jay's already been like, hey, welcome back. Good to see you. Glad you came back. Kind of hey, I know what's happened in the past, but we're in the present right now. Let's move forward. And that kind of fits his character right now, too. It's like, I'm moving forward, forgetting everything that's been happening in the last, 10, 12 years for him in a way. And I also like it, too, because they were involved in a lot of tag team matches when the Shield was the thing, because Punk has... Punk would team with the Usos a lot, ironically, versus the Shield.
I do remember.
So I think that would be kind of a continuance of that. It'd be just, I could think it could be just a good, friendly shake hands after a match type of match. But I think if you're wanting to keep Jey Uso as a main event player, like we're claiming he is, and he has shown that he can handle, him and Punk could go a lot of good ways for him.
Absolutely. I like it. I do like it. I think that makes sense. Again, another guy that's not on my list, but again, it's not, because I don't want to see that match. Drew McIntyre is not on my list, and I have them fighting at some point during this build. I'm not like, this is like, it's not just like, right. There's so many great matches that could be out there, and originally I actually did have McIntyre on the list, but I was like, there's just so many other good ones, and I'm already going to talk about it at some point here. Apparently now twice. I might as well just leave it off and talk about something else that I think would be fun. So, but I think that makes a lot of sense. The only reason I think why I would have probably hesitated to put that on my list is because I think that it would be a bit of a haphazard, throw it together type match, and those matches tend to be a little bit shorter, not that great a build. I think there would need to be some kind of bad blood story there for it to make sense for me to put it over any of the guys on my list. But certainly, once I got in the ring, it would be very entertaining. They're both fantastic, clearly, so I like that a lot. Yeah. For me, my number 9... Oh, actually, you know what? I do have Drew McIntyre on the list. I lied about everything I just said, so I apologize there. I forgot that I put Drew on the list. My number 9 is going to be L.A. Knight.
Yeah.
Okay, I was really hoping you would do that, otherwise I'd feel really dumb. So thank you for that. No, L.A. Knight, I think that... just the polarization between the two, I mean, it would have to be like right now for it to really be a problem, presumably, because I would anticipate that LA Knight's not going to be quite this hot forever, right? Sami Zayn is still very popular. We went to a show not too long ago. Everybody loves Sami Zayn,
yes.
But it's nothing like what it was when he was just nuclearly white hot. And right now, that's where LA Knight is. I mean, LA Knight is the most popular thing in any company right now. And so I think eventually that's going to die down a little bit. So presumably a match like this wouldn't happen until then. But if they did it right now, I'm pretty sure 90% of people would be like, I don't know who to cheer for. Like it would be a real interesting kind of way to go there. So I'm not sure what they would do with it, but I would just like to see. I mean, if anything, I'd just like to see the build. Yeah, I just like to see the two of them getting a ring and start talking.
Build might be better than the match.
Yes, 100%. Because look, as much as I love LA Knight, I don't think it's too controversial to say, he's not a 5-star in-ring working machine.
Yeah,
He's a lot like, and I know it's a terrible comparison considering what people say about him, but he's a lot like The Rock, where he's great on the mic, you get in the ring, he does moves that people cheer for and that get over, and that, you know, everybody, you know, can follow along with the comebacks, and he's got, you know, some really good finishers and stuff, and you know, signature moves, and that's really it. He's not gonna, you know, blow you away with 5-star matches.
You're not gonna put him in a 20-minute match with Triple H or a technical wrestler.
You're not gonna give him a Shawn Michaels versus Kurt Angle 30 minutes of just absolute barn burner wrestling where you know, you're sitting on the edge of your seat the entire time because, oh my God, they're countering everything and it's just all this grappling. No, and that you don't have to be that.
Right.
Like, we've got enough dudes like that all over the world.
Yes.
You just sometimes need guys that are entertaining, and that's what LA Knight is. And he's good in the ring. He's above average, I'd say.
Yeah.
He's just not quite to the level of, like, you know, an AJ would have been back in his day, or Shawn Michaels, as I alluded to, or Kurt Angle, as I alluded to. But regardless, I just think that the match would be pretty good. But man, the promos, I mean, I don't even know what
I just
LA
wanted
Knight
them to do a
would start
promo
talking.
off. Just do a promo off, you know?
Yeah.
Just open up a couple PLEs, just yelling at each other.
That's it.
Then we start the PLE.
Just see what happens. Okay, and now your number 8.
Number 8, match that, for at least from the research I could find, but I'm pretty sure I'm correct here, they've never faced each other. It's Finn Balor, Punk, number 7. I think just again, Balor can provide a good opponent. You know, probably getting another match that would be kind of maybe weird to build. Maybe this is when Balor's out of Judgment Day, if Balor were to leave Judgment Day. You definitely don't need the persona of the demon for Balor here. But no, I think Balor and Punk would give us a good entertaining match.
I do too. Finn Balor is on my list, so I completely agree with you for everything that you just said. I think more or less the opposite of what I talked about with LA Knight. I just think that the match itself would be stupendous. Finn Balor, I mean, it's incredible. I think he's like 44. Like maybe he's not quite that old, but he's up
he's
there.
One of the older ones,
He's I think he's 40 at least, and he just still looks unbelievable for that. And once you get out now, LA Knight is also up that age, but he's not quite as amazing at everything that he was when he was, in NXT or, when he was first coming up, because he's just not as young as he was. Mm-hmm. But he's still 97% of what he was. I mean, it's not like he's lost a big step or anything. Mm-hmm. So I think he would still give a fantastic match with Punk. And then obviously, I think that Finn can more or less hold his own on the mic, but he would certainly be vastly overpowered by Punk in that arena, which is why you're going to see exactly where he fits on my list, and I assume that's one of the reasons why he's probably not closer to higher, on your list, because the promos would be just a wild mismatch. And I think that, when it comes to where I rank things on my list and what I presume you ranked on your list, both aspects have to be there. The match has to be great, the promos have to be great, the build has to be great, all that good stuff. So definitely makes sense. But for my number 8, the person I lied about, apparently, is Drew McIntyre, which I kind of already mentioned that at some point during this build, I'm going to have them have a match. I am not going to talk about it here. I will obviously get into the specifics of where and why they're having the match when the time comes. But there's a reason why I put him on the list. There's a reason why I have that match going, is because I think, first of all, story-wise, it just makes sense. Drew McIntyre is one of the 2 people that really cannot stand that CM Punk is around. And so I think it just makes sense right now for that to be a feud that perhaps you pull the trigger on immediately. Yep. Or perhaps you pull the trigger on at or after WrestleMania. I don't know. But I think that it just makes the most sense right now. Now, again, Drew, good on the microphone. Is he the absolute best talker on the planet? No. But he is very, very good when he wants to be.
Yeah,
I think
he can definitely hold his own.
Sure. Yes. One of my favorite promos of the year, I don't know if you know this promo or remember it, but I think it was like the first week or maybe like 2 weeks after Triple H took over, and he unbanned a lot of like the banned words that Vince had. One of them was wrestling. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, there was a long time where you couldn't say wrestling on WWE programming because Vince didn't like the word. But Kevin Owens and Drew McIntyre cut a promo where they they put all of their heart and their soul and their guts into it. And at the end, Drew just goes, whether you're a sports entertainer, a combat athlete or whatever, we're just two wrestlers in a wrestling ring. Let's just freaking wrestle.
Yep.
And you're just like, yeah! Like, it's the first time it's the first time you heard somebody say wrestle or wrestling on the programming for years. I mean, I'm not kidding, like a decade. Yep. Like a long time. Yep. And so you hear this big brooding Scott just go, let's just freaking wrestle! And you're like, yes! Like, it fired you, and the promo was so good. So trust me, Drew's good on the mic. I'm not saying, but compared to some of the guys that I'm going to have later on the list, he's not quite there, which is fine. He doesn't have to be. And again, I think also in ring-wise, there are other matches I would like to see more, which is why he's at 7, because he's got decent promos, decent match, but not quite at the level of other guys. So I have him at 7.
Yeah, so Drew was one of those where I was trying to go back. I was going back and forth on whether to add to my list or not. I definitely like that. Number 7 for me, AJ Styles. And I hope we kind of see AJ Styles again. I know he's out for some reason right now, which I don't think we really know why. Anyway, but AJ Styles is actually one of those that has actually had a history with Punk on my list. But this was on the independent circuit.
Sure.
Our Ring of Honor and others. They had 7 matches from what I could figure, or multiple matches they were both involved in against each other, but one-on-one matches, 7 of them. Styles won 5 of those matches. 3 of them were title matches in different programs.
Okay.
So I mean, they have a history, and they have a history of battling at the top of the card. I think it could be I don't know how you would do this one, obviously since they're separate brands. But again, I'm not really trying to throw build in here or anything. I'm just like, let's just throw matches together. Could be a one-off at a PLE.
Yep. We would have said Survivor Series a couple years ago. It would have made sense, but obviously now they're not doing the brand split thing, which is I'm so glad they're not. But still, there's some good matches that came out of it anyway.
Right. So again, Styles isn't the strongest. He's good in the mic, but I'm definitely kind of more in the Balor ring there, where it's like those two will put on a great match. Multiple phenomenal forearms. I just want to see. I kind of want to see Punk be put into the Styles clash again.
Yeah.
So it's it'd be a very entertaining match to watch. So that's Styles. Number 7 on my list.
I agree, and he is a little further down on my list, so I'm going to try, if he's obviously explained all the reasons why, I'm going to try and shorten, so that way you're not getting 2 full explanations for the same guy. But my number 7 is Finn Balor. He talked about it just a couple of minutes ago, all the reasons why. I mentioned it as well. I don't want to get into it any more than I already have. Finn Balor, number 7. For me, just think it would be a really, really fun match. I'm a big fan of Finn Balor. I have been for years. So I just like to see it.
Yep. Number 6. These two had a match 2013. Their only match together, SummerSlam. Let's run it back another SummerSlam.
That is one of my... I already know who you're talking about. That is one of my favorite matches of all time. I have gone back and watched it so many times. You are speaking of the big Beastie Boy.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Cowboy Brock is known right now. Which, of all the Brock Lesnar personas, I enjoy Cowboy Brock a lot. And a part of me that I think it's really weird. Again, I watched the product a lot more in the last 5, 6, 7 years than I have really ever before.
Yeah.
And I came into some of that when all we were getting was Reigns and Lesnar. And I latched on to Reigns' character. I liked his character as a face. Like it even more as a heel. So I didn't really care for Lesnar at the time. But when Lesnar was off the product for a little while, and then he comes back as Cowboy Brock, especially with Paul Heyman with Roman, and so you get this complete new persona of Brock. wow. So again, Heyman was always a great mouthpiece for Brock, but Brock has proven he's better on the mic than most people think.
Yep.
And he's funny.
He is.
I think those two, that would just, again, promo-wise, that'd just be fun,
Yeah.
And he's, give me Brock. Give me Punk again.
Yeah.
It's been 10 years.
Fair enough.
Let's just say anniversary of a SummerSlam and just have it one off, Let's just have some fun again.
Yeah, and I know I keep saying it. He's not on my list, but I mean, certainly that would be a lot of fun. My thing is, I don't know how much I want to see Brock anymore. And that's not because I don't like Brock Lesnar. It's just because I think at this point, using Brock the way you used him with Cody is about what he should be doing now. He shouldn't be winning any more world titles.
Right.
He really shouldn't be winning any more secondary titles. He should be there to pick fights with guys that either need him to beat them and then they get their revenge back, or they just have a big one-on-one match and then he puts whoever he's facing over, and now they can say, "Oh my God, I beat Brock Lesnar."
Yeah,
Like,
kind of a gatekeeper in a sense.
exactly, and that
Undertaker aura.
And here's the thing: if that's all, that also gets tricky, because if you do it too much, you water it down. And so for me, again, I'm putting the cart ahead of the horse here. I have Brock Lesnar in a big match at WrestleMania against a person that I think not desperately needs to beat him. He does not desperately need to beat him, but I think would be the most benefited from beating Brock Lesnar. I will not say who that is, but I think that it should be that time, and maybe one, if you really did it right, 2 more times after that, and then I think Brock should call it quits. If you don't call it quits after this WrestleMania. I don't think that Brock should be coming back like Undertaker did and being in the ring with a bunch of random young guys for weird reasons, like Drew and Rusev and Bray and all these. Like, it was weird, especially beating all of them. Like, what did that really accomplish at the end of the day for those guys? Right?
Outside of the streak, yeah. I think that, yeah.
Well, that was Brock. Yeah, I mean, Brock. I still don't think that Brock should have been the guy to beat him. I think it should have been Roman, but it is what it is. Everybody, it worked out for everybody. Roman's doing just fine, guys. Just in case you didn't know.
Yeah.
He's doing A-okay by himself. So, okay, so that was number 6 for you.
Yep.
So number 6 for me was his number 7, which is AJ Styles. So again, we talked about it already. AJ Styles, it would just be a great, great match. They do have a little bit of history on the independents. But I think that putting that match on needs to happen within the next calendar year. First of all, just because of Punk's availability, and second of all, because we don't like to admit it, but AJ is getting up there in age. He's not the same guy that he was when he first got here, nor should he be. He worked his ever-loving tail off to carry SmackDown for quite a while as the top champion, and he deserved to get the recognition of being the best on that brand. But the toll that takes, him working through injuries like he's documented, I forget what the exact injury was, but I think he worked through a broken ankle for a while and something with his shoulder. I mean, it was really not like ow, my shoulder hurts. Like, oh no, like it's like shattered in like 2 places. Yeah. And I still am out there every night doing everything. So like, he's not quite all the way there yet, so I think that in order to really get the most juice out of it, you got to take advantage of it in the next year. But that's certainly a match I'd like to see.
Yeah. So number 5, we've already talked about him. LA Knight, shared our thoughts there. LA Knight's 5 on my list.
I mean, I understand completely.
Just, again, the Bill's probably better than the match there. Who's your number 5?
My number 5 is the person who last episode, if you guys caught it, was the person who shall not be named, and that is the tribal chief Roman Reigns. Now, the reason why he is 5 for me is really because I would have felt bad putting him any lower. And no, I don't mean like putting him at number 2 or 3. I mean like putting him at number 10. Like, I could not put him any higher than 5. And while I wanted to put him lower on the list, I felt like it was a little bit disrespectful given how much he has carried the company. So I put him at 5. And the reason why I didn't really want to necessarily even put him that high was because I just, quite frankly, think that the story that they would have to tell to get there wouldn't benefit either of them.
Right.
I don't know who comes out of that as looking good. I don't know, where the story would go because, I mean, at least for me, Roman, whenever he loses this title, which, I mean, I have a plan as to when it is. I'm sure you do too. Why would we get this match?
Right.
Where would it come from? What story would you tell? And who do you have win?
Yeah.
Because if both of these guys at this point, whenever Roman loses his title, I would assume that Roman is probably going to transition to being a lot more part-time.
Agreed.
A bigger, I mean, he kind of already is, but, a real attraction where he basically wrestles 5 times a year.
Right.
CM Punk.
The next gatekeeper in a sense.
Sure, CM Punk is also a part-time wrestler, presumably, that will only wrestle a few times a year. I mean, do you really want to put them together in one of those? I mean, I guess you can, but it's just going to be a weird, haphazard throw-together thing. So I wouldn't be super excited to kind of have that build unless they found a way to tell it organically.
Right.
But for me, it wouldn't be the best build in the world. Now, the match would slay. It would be amazing, which again is why I felt bad putting it lower, because I think that outside of maybe my number, honestly, kind of looking at my list, I have the list right in front of me here, guys, just so you know. I actually might take that back. I don't know if it would be better than any of the other ones, but that's just my opinion. It might be better than a couple, but in my opinion, it might not be, just based on who I have. But I think it would obviously be a phenomenal match. So, those are my reasons for it being number 5.
Yeah. I definitely have Roman on my list. I'll reveal where he is on my list. It's something I hadn't really thought about. Yeah, you almost have to tell a story with him because it is a story mode with him and his, where he's been since he's come back as a heel. If nothing else, I think the easy way to do is let's fight each other for Paul Heyman.
There you go.
Okay, and let's
all right, move him up to 1. That's a perfect.
And let's actually make that a triple threat while we're at it and throw Brock right back in there.
There you go. Let's go.
We're all
3 part-timers all at
bring
once.
back Ryback while we're at it.
Oh, the big guy.
I'm kidding.
I'm pretty sure he retired because
I'm pretty
back. I'm pretty sure that's what happened.
I'm kidding about Ryback. I'm just trying to think of all the,
Curtis Axel. Bring back Curtis Axel. With that awful entrance.
Moving on.
Horrible.
Moving on. The only, we're talking about promos, and I think, LA Knight and Punk would be great promos together. Honestly, the only guy I think that, the next 2 guys I have on my list, I think would maybe be slightly better on the promo side. At number 4, Owens. We were talking about earlier Owens and Logan. Owens and Logan, Owens and Punk. They both know how to handle the mic so well. They can be a face, they can be a heel, they can be a tweener. They can both do it. They both know how to get the crowd to eat them up, etc., etc., etc. The best things you want out of promo guys that can fit promos.
Sure.
And again, Owens does, and then in the ring, Owens does things in the ring that you wouldn't expect him to do. He's not a fit dude. He's not a fit dude. Now, he's fit for a wrestler. He can carry himself very well in matches. He always has. But, I mean, he's not, he's not Roman Reigns fit. He's not Seth Rollins fit. Not Finn Balor fit,
Yeah. That would be freaky if, Kevin Owens took his shirt off and it was just a pillow for, 10 years and it's just freaking, I don't remember what the guy's name was, but it's Boomy from Avatar: The Last Airbender. With the old dude from the Earth Kingdom, he just takes his shirt off and he just got a 90-pack and he's 100 years old and you're like, what the? That would be kind of what that is. But anyway, Avatar. I didn't expect to have an Avatar: The Last Airbender shout out on here, but here we are.
Here we are. If there's anybody that doesn't like him as much as Rollins and Drew, it's Kevin. Kevin's number 3 and no.
And it is like, as soon as you saw that, it was instantaneous. Like, give me 40 minutes of that, please. Like, it just instantly just planting these little seeds, and that's something that Triple H is really good at. He might not capitalize on it right then and there, but you could bet your bottom dollar that 6 months from now, if they get together in a program, somebody is either going to show it on Titantron or they're going to mention it in a promo somewhere. Like, it's going to be these little tiny things of storytelling. So it's certainly Owens.
And he's one of those guys that Punk referenced in his promo on SmackDown. Punk referenced a few people. Owens was one very specifically that he matched. So to me, I even have Owens higher just because, while I like to see these matches, I think that's one of the more realistic matches we can see.
Yeah, you don't have to justify that to me. I have Owens on my list too, and I haven't said him yet, so he's pretty high.
Right,
number 4 for me is going to be the Ring General Gunther.
Yes.
And the reason why is because I just like pain. That's just really where I'm at. I have been a big fan of Walter since he was in Europe, and not NXT UK Europe. I mean, like, way before that. When he was wrestling now Ludwig Kaiser, just as like real young guys. I saw a picture of the two of them when they were like 23, 24 years old, and it is amazing how much they've grown since then. But I was a huge fan, and I remember when Pete Dunne was NXT UK champ, and he had been UK champ for like 200-something days. There was I think it was either an ESPN article or it was just some like Cage Side or whatever article that came out, and it said, who will dethrone every champion in WWE at the time. And they had like 3 or 4 guys give all their predictions, and they actually did the NXT UK championship, and they picked Walter, which is interesting because Walter was not signed to WWE yet. So even back then, anybody who watched him knew that guy's going to go to WWE, and that guy's going to destroy everybody that walks the earth.
And he has.
And he literally walked in and destroyed everybody that walks the earth. I mean, he has lost 2 matches. Well, he's been beaten himself in 2 matches. He's obviously lost tag team matches. He just lost one last night. But he hasn't been actually beaten, pinned, or submitted but twice in the entire history of him being in WWE. And that's been since 2018, 2017. That is 5 or 6 years of losing 2 times. It's insane how dominant he's been. And again, I just like pain. So I think that watching him chop CM Punk to death would be entertaining. But seeing Punk in a role that he hasn't been in a while, which is, he's the best in the world, but against Gunther, he might be outmatched. Which is again, like kind of like what a Lesnar was, right? Where they told the story of, he's really good and he can hold his own, but he might be, there might be no stopping this monster. So I just think that would be great. Now, again, you run into the, how do you kind of build to that? I would presume at that point that Gunther would be world champion, because please,
it's coming.
It's coming down the road. There's no way unless he just blows out both his knees and never competes again. I don't have any wood to knock on, but I'll knock on the mic. There you go. That's made of wood, right? No, it's not. But, it would just be a wonderful match, because I've said it on the podcast before, there's a pattern where everybody who wrestles Gunther has the best match of their career, or at least the best match that they've had in an entire calendar year. And it's because Gunther brings the best out of everybody. And I just think that it would be a different story that Punk's ever told. Because Gunther's whole thing is, I want to make the ring sacred. You're the one that made it not sacred. You're the one that started this whole dang thing, and I'm going to end it. Like, I think that would be, and then obviously if Gunther's world champion, all Punk's motivation is, well, I'd like that. Like, that's all the motivation you need on Punk's side. And please have Gunther win, if that's the case. And I don't think you have Gunther on your list.
I do not have Gunther on my list.
I just, why? Like,
I think at the bottom of the list when I was trying to figure out what matchups, I forgot.
You know what?
Kinda
I
same
forgot
with
LA
you.
Knight for a while, so you know what?
Yeah.
That's okay. I'm with you there. Sorry, Chad Gable, you were a last minute omission, buddy. I had you on there though. You can't.
Honorable mention.
Honorable mention, Chad Gable. That would just be a lot of fun. Okay. I forget where. I think we're at your number 3. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So number 3 is going to be the first of 3 R's. I'm just going to throw that out there. Our names. For
I
anything.
had close enough.
So we were. This is where our list is going to get very similar.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we even have to say much. Number 3 for right now is Rollins.
Yep.
Enough said. We just saw it on Raw last night. They stared at each other for how long? How long did they stare at each other?
A long time.
It was great. There's memes already. There's pictures of them side by side. And I think if there's, I'd be shocked if that wasn't their first match for Punk being back. Maybe it won't be.
Again, in my predictions, I don't have it. I don't have that being his first match.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily think it needs to be. I think you could sit in that for a while, let it simmer for a while. And something I actually meant to say with this too, I actually don't think anybody needs a title for any of these matches. I don't think you have to have a championship title in the center of a match with Rollins. And you mentioned Reigns earlier. I don't think you need to have a match. I don't think you have to have a title in that picture, especially with Rollins and Punk. They just don't like each other at all. You're talking about the ring being sacred. WWE is sacred to Rollins. I mean, he was the company.
Absolutely.
He was the company man under the authority for a while, but I think looking back at that now with what Rollins has done as a totality of his career so far, that honestly fits him so well, if not even more so, because he wants to protect WWE at any cost, and he will. And I would say he's probably the best workhorse. I would say he's the best workhorse that the company has had, even over Reigns. And he's going to get to that point in his career where he'll be the next guy he's the next gatekeeper. He's going to start putting over talent, but he just does not want. Kind of how we were talking about, is it good for business for Punk to be back? Rollins doesn't think it is at all.
No, he doesn't.
And he's just like waiting for that other shoe to drop. He's just waiting for that other shoe to drop. So, again, promos, thank you. The match would be awesome. I think you could put on a long match. I think both could endure each other for a long time. Heck, make it even a 30-minute Iron Man match if you want. I think, I think you could even, especially with titles in the picture, I think you could build into a trio of matches. Or even 2. I mean, technically these 2 did face back in 2013 right before Punk left the company. Their only match they had, that was a non-Shield match. So you could technically throw in a second match and then have a blow-off match.
You could.
You could do, I think this was one of those that the story writes itself easily. Again, you don't necessarily have to have it happen right away. It doesn't have to necessarily be the first match for Punk. But that fire is there. I think if you wait too long, the fire goes away. But I mean, that hatred for Punk from Rollins is just there so much. It was hard for me not to actually make this the number 1 on my list.
I agree. It was very hard for me to make it number 1 because it actually is my number 3 as well. Seth Rollins, we both had it at number 3. That is just the match that I think when, over the last 9 years, when it's, well, maybe not the full 9 years, but, at least definitely the last handful, 3, 4, when it's, hey, if CM Punk ever comes back, who do you want him to face? I think most everybody's first answer would probably have been Seth. Just because, first of all, Seth is one of the best in-ring workers, consistency-wise and storytelling-wise, that we have and have ever had. And second of all, because there is legitimate, real-life bad blood there where Seth Rollins has been, you kind of mentioned the company man. Storyline-wise, certainly he was the company man, but, I mean, he's been going on, and this is going to sound really petty, but he's been going on Twitter and defending WWE for years and years from guys like Punk, from guys like Will Ospreay, who I would have loved to see in WWE at some point. All these guys that were like, oh, WWE ain't this, they're not as good as over here. He would be the guy that would be like, no, we're the best in the world, and that's what we are. And I know that. I mean, I've seen the kind of interviews where people have asked him, like, would you like to see CM Punk back? He would just go, no.
Nope.
Like,
he's gone at length to say no. Do not come back. Man.
He does not want CM Punk back, and I don't think that he will ever want CM Punk back. Now, is this to say that Seth is not a good businessman and he's not going to do business with Punk? No, of course not. Seth will certainly do business with Punk. Now, I will say, if I don't know if this is going to happen or not, but when, because it's going to happen barring catastrophic injury or something, when CM Punk and Seth Rollins get a match together, if Seth has to lose, I don't know how well he's going to take that. I don't think he's got a problem with doing a program with Punk. It might start to get murky if Seth has to lose to Punk. And that's where I think we're really going to see a lot of the bad blood kind of come out, and we'll see what happens. But at the end of the day, the reason why I have him at 3 is very simple. There are just 2 guys that I want to see very slightly more. I'm not saying that they would be better matches, but they might be. I'm not saying there'd be better promos, but they might be. But I will say one advantage Seth Rollins has that the other 2 guys don't have is he's got the most bad blood, and it would be the most real and the most personal.
Yep.
So I think certainly it deserves a top 3 spot. But again, if you guys know anything about me, you probably know the 2 guys that I'm going to mention next. But before we do that, your number 2.
2 for me is Roman Reigns. We've already talked about him a little bit. Like I said, off the cuff, I'd love to see the triple threat battle for Paul Heyman.
Yeah.
Bring them all back. Let's just get really full circle here. But again,
so we're taking Ryback out now. It's not a fatal four. No Curtis Axel.
No.
Okay.
Triple threat.
Perfect.
The main Paul Heyman guys.
Okay, the real Paul Heyman.
The real Paul Heyman guys, yes. Thank you. No, but I again, great match, great workers together. This is something you can maybe work towards the next WrestleMania even. You're saying give Roman some time off if he drops the title in the next 4-6 months or whatever. If he does, bring him back for something like this.
Sure.
Again, I don't think you have to do too much of a build just because I think those 2 will just put on a great match together. We've already talked about Roman, so yeah, Roman's my number 2.
There you go. Okay. So my number 2 is going to be Cody Rhodes. Now, I have to admit to you, I think the hardest choice that I had to make was deciding whether Cody Rhodes or the Next Gentleman was going to be the number 1. I eventually decided Cody at number 2, which is, it's really a coin flip for me. I think out of every wrestler on planet Earth, Cody is probably my favorite guy right now. Those of you who know me personally, I am a big Keith Lee fan. No, not the food critic, the wrestler, by the way. I get that all the time. It's driving me nuts now. There's another Keith Lee who's more famous than the one I like, and it's not fun for me. But anyway, it didn't end well with him, and so obviously he's over in AEW, and I just can't watch a lot of AEW. I watch it when I can, but it's more difficult. And Keith Lee's also not particularly featured a whole lot on there. He is sometimes, but he's not really been in a lot of big programs, so it's kind of tough. So Cody is really the guy I'm latching my wagon onto at this point. From the second the dun dun appeared at WrestleMania 2 years ago, I knew, I'm like, yeah, he's back. Like, we're good. This is the guy I'm latching. Like, it was right then and there. You just knew.
Yep.
And there's reasons for that, because he has essentially turned himself into everything that the company could possibly want in a number 1 face of the company.
Yep.
A guy who connects with every facet of person from all over the world. Mm-hmm. Children adore him. He is a just good human being. I've literally seen videos of children in house shows jumping the barricade and running up to Cody like that's not like, don't do that. Like, it's not good at all. Like, security will tackle you even if you're 3. Like, but luckily security did not tackle this 3-year-old or however old he was. But he just, and it was adorable. Like, you know, it sounds silly, and it is silly, but like, this is like 3-year-old or 5-year-old just like climbs over the barricade as his mom or dad is trying to like, no, don't do that. And he just walks right up to Cody and just taps him on the back as he's, you know, he's high-fiving fans, and Cody goes, he turns around and there's just this 5-year-old just like, hello. And Cody's like, what are you doing, buddy? And he gets down on one knee and he's like, what are you doing? Where's your mom? Or where's your, I just can't tell what he's saying, but the kid points and goes, right over there. And he goes, why don't you go over there and be with them? Here, why don't you give me a high five and I'll go over there and I'll sign some shirts for you. And sure enough, the security guard came up just slowly, and Cody was like talking to the security guard. He's like, it's a kid, just relax. And like, that's the kind of person he is. Mm-hmm. Like, you can't ask for any more in a number 1 guy in the company at this point.
Right.
So his promo skills, the way he carries himself, his in-ring work is just about as good, if not better, than anyone else in the company. Mm-hmm. You put that together with Punk, 2 of the best in-ring guys in the business. Mm-hmm. So it was really, really tough, especially considering my fandom for this man, to put him at number 2. But the reason why it's number 2, ultimately, is because I think while they obviously have the potential to be very disrespectful to each other if they needed to, I think that it would be a little bit more, I don't know what the word I'm trying to say is, but like a little bit more pulled back promo battle where they're not going to throw haymakers at one another, one another's character, and, you know, I didn't want you here, nobody wants you here.
You don't need bad blood for this feud.
Right. So, and that's where I think the bad blood, like with Rollins, is the factor into like putting it at number 1. If they hated each other, if Cody came out and said, listen, I've already dealt with this guy in my locker room once, actually twice, but, you know, really in his current state once, I don't think it's a good idea. There's a reason why he did not make it there. Mm-hmm. Like, if he had said something like that in the lead up, I'd be like, oh, give it to me. It'd be number 1 easy.
Right.
But he hasn't. He was very respectful because that's what Cody does. So it's number 2.
Yeah. And there's not to say that he couldn't say that.
Oh, no, like I said, there's certainly potential that it could happen. I just don't see it right now.
Right. No, I mean, I think, like you said, Rhodes really embodies everything. Like, I feel like he's, you know, so many go in and out of character, on screen, off screen. I don't think that's there for Rhodes. I think he's truly one of the more genuine out there. It's like, what you see me outside of the ring is what you're getting me inside the ring. So
and vice versa.
You can go through back to history. Actually, a little bit of a tidbit history for you. These 2 did go at each other. Rhodes is my number 1.
Okay.
So
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Again, I very easily could have put him in number 1, so I don't hate that at all.
I think any of these top 4 that I have, I think you could put any of them number 1 for various reasons. And actually, very quickly, I meant to mention this with Reigns and Reigns and Punk. Too many names.
Yeah.
Punk faced all the Shield members right before he left, or, you know, within.
Yep. There was a handicap match, I think.
Well, there was a handicap match, but then he faced each of them individually as well.
Oh, did he? Okay.
At the turn of the year from 13 to 14, he beat Ambrose, Jon Moxley. He beat Rollins. He lost to Roman. And so another reason of that. So I like to pull in history, and I think Triple H is trying to pull on threads from before, whether it's 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, in some stories if it's there, if it makes sense. So that's why I had kind of like with Roman, and that's why I'm doing the same thing with Rhodes. And Cody Rhodes is so different from what he was back in the day in WWE to what he is now.
Yeah.
He needed to be out of WWE, go start AEW, go hit the independent circuit, to truly grow as just what he is now. And that's what made him what he is now. Yeah. And he can bring that finally back and really tune into something. Because he changed personas, I don't know how many times, dashing Dashing Rhodes.
undashing.
He was gold. He was Stardust, which is where I kind of saw him a little bit with Stephen Amell. It's one of the cooler, fun, more gimmick matches for me there with Cody.
It was.
So in 2008 they actually face each other. So they've already had 2 matches against each other in WWE. Punk won the first one in 08. Later in that year, Rhodes won, but he won via count out. I don't know if you would pull history, but you definitely could. And you could easily say, rubber match, let's go. Again, I think same thing with Rollins. Put him in a 30-minute Iron Man match or Last Man Standing match or even a full hour. We haven't had a full hour Iron Man match in WWE in a long time. I looked up the year and I can't remember it off the top of my head. It's been a long time.
I thought that we were gonna get it with Rhodes and Rollins.
I did too.
I was like, if you're gonna do it now.
It was written.
But Hell in a Cell was great too, and obviously it ended up being way better than an Iron Man match would have been, considering Cody did it with one boob.
Yes. So Rhodes is my number one. I think any of these top 4 people that we've mentioned just before you reveal number one could easily, for various reasons, be number one. Quality matches, and the build it's right there. Whereas the rest of our list, I think it'll be a little bit harder. A lot of outside of maybe like Drew, a lot of these builds are just right there. You just gotta pull up the right thread at the right time.
For sure.
And you don't need a title in it. And to me, you don't need a title in any of these feuds with Rhodes, Reigns, Rollins, or even Owens.
Absolutely. And my number one, Kevin Owens. It was so hard for me to pick. But I just want that match so bad. I don't know how else to say it. Kevin Owens gives me Stone Cold Steve Austin vibes, and no, not just because he wears black and gives the stunner. That's what I get a lot.
And that came later, which is great, I think.
Yes, but even before he was doing all that stuff, he gave me just supreme over bad guy vibes. I mean, I'll never forget when he was wrestling Finn in Japan, and he has Finn in a headlock, and somebody starts heckling him, and he literally screams at the top of his lungs on live television, "I hate your stupid country and everyone in it." Like, it just stuff like that just nobody else does. Like, who is sitting there screaming, "I hate your stupid country and everyone in it" while you're in a headlock, or sitting on the apron, or I think it was actually, he was in the ring and somebody just kicked out of something and he was rolling towards the ropes because he was the guy who pinned whoever it was, and he yelled, "Shut up, Michael Cole, I can hear you from here." Like, who does that? Like, it's like, it's only Kevin. He's the only person that does this. He's so unique, and I think finally you've got somebody who's in charge that understands him. Because Kevin Owens is also a lot like Triple H, where the mentality in the ring and the intelligence in the ring is really the main attribute, not necessarily the wrestling itself. Because obviously Triple H is a much different athlete than Kevin Owens was. But at the same time, there's a reason why they called him the Cerebral Assassin, is because he was smart in the ring more than he was athletic or more than he was dominant or whatever you want to say. Yep. Kevin Owens is the same way. And I think that Kevin Owens on the microphone can stand toe-to-toe with anybody, not only today, but that has ever lived. I think that he is legitimately, talent-wise, a top 5 talker ever. That's how funny he is. I mean, if you see backstage segments of him, like in WWE.com, like the exclusives or whatever on YouTube, he, legitimately makes me belly laugh about every week. Yeah. Just being himself. And
he's not even trying to be funny sometimes.
No. And
most of the time.
And it's just the silly stuff, but that tells you that the guy's entertaining. But when he gets serious, it is serious and
locked in.
And his music does it for me. It's one of those where his music hits and you're just like this.
Yeah, let's go.
You're just it's one of those where you hear that just guttural rock music and you're like, yes. It's on. And so, when he's serious and that music hits, you're like, oh, somebody's about to get destroyed. Like, think about it this way. We thought we all knew that Cody was going to win the belt at last year's WrestleMania. We all thought we knew, which means that it was slightly possible that Sami was going to win in an Elimination Chamber, but it was probably not. But we knew we were getting that.
Yes.
So when Kevin Owens versus Roman Reigns at Rumble rolled around, 120% of the population knew that Kevin Owens was not winning. But when his music hit at Rumble, I went, this guy's going to make me want him to win, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
And it just made me so mad because I'm like, I'm just going to set myself up for disappointment. But I can't help it. That's just what Kevin does to me. Now, obviously, it's all up for, it's all subjective. It's all up to opinion, right? You may not feel the same way as strongly as I do about Kevin Owens. But I just think that the guy deserves way more than what he's gotten, and he has gotten a lot. I mean, think about the fact that he wrestled Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yes.
His hero in life is Stone Cold Steve Austin. He's done interviews. He used to have Stone Cold Steve Austin posters covering every inch of his wall. When he met Stone Cold Steve Austin in an airport for the first time, he was losing. He was like, I can't believe Stone Cold Steve Austin is 2 feet away from us right now. Like, this is unbelievable. And he got to wrestle Stone Cold Steve Austin. He got to do a segment where he got to beat up Vince McMahon. He got to be a world champion in a company where every one of his haters was like, you're too fat to be here, you're not going to make it, they're not going to understand you. Mm-hmm. And even if the title run wasn't the best ever, he still got there.
Yeah.
He's been U.S. champion, he's been IC champion, he's been tag team champion, he's done
Universal
NXT champion, Universal champion. He's done everything you could think of, and yet he still deserves so much more. And so I'm giving him what he deserves, folks. Yeah. He's my number one, as if that matters.
And to me, I feel like what you see is what you get with Kevin Owens. Like, Rhodes is kind of on and off, in and out of the ring the same. I think Owens has that same attitude no matter where he is. And he just knows, and he knows how to deliver lines at the right time. He knows, again, whether it's backstage, whether it's in promos, he knows how to deliver those lines well.
Right. He definitely does.
He has always been entertaining. I've always liked him. I just always liked his attitude and bravado and never quit. And the Fight Owens fight or KO. Mm-hmm. Or, he's on a few different slogans, but all the same idea where it's that brash attitude. It's gonna get him through no matter what, and it's
for sure.
It's fun to watch, especially with a non-prototypical looking athlete in wrestling. He's done very well for himself, and I agree. He's definitely could have had multiple reigns. He probably could have been WWE champion multiple times. It just hasn't been there for him. But maybe we see some new stuff in the next couple years.
Oh yeah, I think clearly once basically half of your world titles are not basically under lock and key for a long period of time, you're going to get the door opened to new guys. And I think what it's allowed is newer guys to come in and not have to worry about being pushed right away to that level, like we saw a lot with guys when Vince was in charge.
Yep.
Guys being pushed to the moon right away. We've talked about Ryback, and we've given him a lot of grief here, but that was another one where I really liked Ryback at the beginning. I thought that he really had a shot to be world champion, but they slingshotted him way too quickly, had him lose to Punk, ironically, and that was it. I mean, his character was destroyed at that point. His aura was gone, and he really killed it. Rest in peace, Bray Wyatt, but don't even get me started on The Fiend. I mean, when I watched his entrance, and I know we're a little off topic here, but when I watched his entrance at SummerSlam before he faced Finn, I was with my wife, who's out there, and with one of my friends, Travis. And we were just watching it, and all of us were just like, what is going on? But also, this may be the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. I mean, he came out with a severed head of himself as a lantern, signifying that Bray Wyatt, the person, was dead, and that the Fiend killed him and took over his body, essentially. Mm-hmm. Like, you're talking about this guy, whatever this is the best thing in this company right And somehow they found a way to mess it up.
Yep.
And I could go on and on and on for 25 hours. I'm not going to do that. But with Roman kind of having a just vice grip on the world title scene on one brand, and since its inception, Seth Rollins essentially having a vice grip on the other side, these other guys like Gunther, like a Carmelo Hayes, hopefully will be able to. Guys like Kevin Owens, like Sami Zayn, like Jey Uso, like Drew, like LA Knight, like all these guys. Yes, some of them have fought for the world titles here and there, but for the most part, they're getting over with stories that are separated from those titles, and they can do it for a long time, and it doesn't hurt their characters, because we all know as fans, maybe they shouldn't be facing Seth or Roman right now. They should just be doing their own little thing. Yeah. And I think, for Kevin, I think that it's huge, because I think as soon as Roman loses that title, whoever wins that championship's going to need more challengers.
Yep, and no one's just going to be right there.
No one's just going to be right there, and they're going to be great matches. He might win, he might lose, we'll see, but he's going to be there, and he's going to have a chance. And I think that someday Kevin Owens should win another world title before he's done. Because I know he's talked about that world title run, and he said, I didn't really get to enjoy it because I was so concerned about doing the next thing and going to the next town. I didn't even really get a chance to enjoy it. So I really wish that I had more of an opportunity to do something else. So, but anyways, that is going to do it for us this week. So much fun, Daniel. I appreciate you doing this, and I'm looking forward to doing this. We're going to do this at least right now. The plan is 3 more times.
Yes.
For the next 3 weeks. We're going to be coming in here. We're going to be booking more things up to WrestleMania. Next week is going to be the Intercontinental Championship through WrestleMania, as well as both sets of tag team titles.
Yes.
Now, whether we're going to do 2 sets of belts, which is women and men's, or we're going to do 3 sets of belts, splitting up the men's tag belts, some people are saying is going to happen before WrestleMania. We will see how that goes. So that's what it's going to be next week. So again, going to be a little bit shorter next week, hopefully, than this week.
And we might workshop some other stuff with the other ones, because will be interesting too as we, delve into these. The picture's constantly changing. We're fantasy booking, but the picture's changing.
Exactly.
Different to show. So, if hopefully we can keep up and keep things in perspective.
Absolutely.
At the same time.
Now, regardless, these will come out before the Royal Rumble pay-per-view.
Yes.
So anything that's fantasy booked after the Royal Rumble pay-per-view, or even, perhaps the last week or 2 leading up to the Rumble, will be complete speculation. But as he mentioned, as time goes along, obviously things will change. Monday Night Raw changed some things that I had planned to say today and in weeks to come. And obviously this Friday night, we'll probably do the same thing.
Right.
So things just change constantly, so we'll see. But that's going to do it for us this week. Thank you all so very much for watching. Let us know in the comment section what you think. And again, thank you so very much for watching, and I will see you all next time.
Hey guys, thank you so much for sticking around all the way to the end. I really appreciate all the support that the wrestling aspect of my channel has been getting lately. So if you did happen to like what you saw and you want to see more, please subscribe. Go ahead and like the video. Whatever you guys can do to help support the channel, I'd really appreciate it. And yeah, I just love wrestling, and so this is just awesome that I get to do this, and I hope you guys have as much fun as I do. But anyways, I'll see you all next time.